Welcome to Shatter.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. You'll get intimacy when I feel like it, she said. No hesitation, no flinch, just a casual death sentence dropped in the middle of our kitchen like it was nothing. Her eyes stayed on her phone, thumb scrolling, while my insides went still. 3 seconds passed. I didn't speak, didn't move, didn't even breathe. Then I smiled, not out of amusement, not anger. It was the smile of a man who finally sees the picture without the frame. The fight was never about fixing us, because there was nothing left to fix. She wasn't negotiating. She was declaring. And I wasn't her husband anymore. I was background noise. So I turned and walked out of the room. No slam of the door. No sarcastic parting shot. Just done. Quietly done. That night she climbed into bed, her back to me, like always. The glow of her phone lit the wall. I lay there staring at the ceiling, not replaying what she'd said, but every moment that had led us here. The slow erosion, the invisible retreat, the way she stopped laughing at my jokes, the way her eyes slid past me like I was furniture, the way a touch had become a privilege instead of an instinct. Looking back, she'd been saying that same sentence for years, just without words. Tonight, she finally gave it a voice. And I wasn't heartbroken. I was calculating. In the morning, I woke up first. Didn't make her coffee. Didn't kiss her forehead. Didn't speak. I left the house like a ghost wearing my skin. She thought I was too comfortable to walk, too dependent to detach, too loyal to leave. She'd mistaken my silence for surrender. Her mistake. Because my absence wouldn't come as a bang. It would bleed in slowly, quietly dismantling everything she thought was permanent. No screaming. No slammed doors. Just the removal of myself from every corner of her life until she realized the house was empty, even with me standing in it. She believed intimacy was hers to give. She was about to find out what it feels like when someone takes everything back. And the cruelest part? By the time she noticed, I'd already be gone. She didn't notice the first day, maybe not even the second. At breakfast, I sat across from her reading the news on my phone. No eye contact. No how'd you sleep? No asking if she wanted her coffee the way I used to make it. She talked about some office drama, a canceled meeting, someone's birthday. I nodded once and kept reading. Not rude, not hostile, just absent. That night, I came home late. The gym first, then a long detour on the way back. She was in a satin robe I hadn't seen in over a year, hair curled, a glass of wine waiting beside her. Netflix paused on the screen, like she'd been staging the moment. "You're late," she said, trying to sound casual. I told her I didn't realize we were on a clock and walked past her to the kitchen. I didn't look back to see her expression, but I felt it. The flicker of confusion, the split-second recognition that something had shifted. Over the next few days, I kept it steady. I was calm, polite, helpful even, but there was no warmth. I didn't initiate touch, didn't ask questions, didn't look for reasons to linger in the same room. And that silence, that new, unshakable stillness, started working on her. By the end of the week, she tried harder. Lipstick before I got home. Dinner made from scratch. A candle lit on the table. I thanked her for the meal and ate without a compliment. When her fingers brushed mine across the table, I withdrew my hand as if I hadn't noticed. She froze for a beat, then smiled like nothing happened. But I could see the calculation in her eyes. It kept building. She began sending texts during the day. "Hope your morning's going okay. What do you want for dinner?" "Miss you." I replied to every one, but with surgical precision. Short, neutral, unemotional. "Thanks. Doesn't matter. All good." Each word a scalpel. Each answer a reminder that she was no longer at the center of my orbit. And the thing about someone who's built their identity on control is this. The moment they feel it slipping, they start to panic. I could see it now, in the way she lingered in doorways, in the way her laughter sounded forced when she tried to spark conversation. She had no idea this was just the beginning. By the time she figured it out, it would already be too late. The exact moment she started to panic wasn't dramatic. No tears, no shouting, no sudden confession. It was a midday phone call, something she never did. Her voice was light, but strained. She said she just wanted to hear my voice. I asked if everything was okay. She gave a little laugh and said she guessed she just missed me. I let the silence stretch until she filled it with a nervous, "Anyway, I'll let you go." and hung up before I could respond. That's when I knew it wasn't about affection. It was about fear. The distance she had once controlled was no longer hers to measure. That night, I came home later than usual. She was dressed like we had dinner plans. We didn't. She mentioned a new restaurant she wanted to try, said we could go and maybe just talk a bit. I told her I'd already eaten, then walked upstairs without a glance back. She didn't follow. 2 days later, I began moving my salary into a private account. No alerts. No paper trail she could see. I canceled streaming services, subscriptions, and a few automatic payments she never noticed I made. The first sign she caught was when Netflix failed to load. She called from the living room that something was wrong with the account. I didn't answer. She waited, then asked again. I still didn't move. It was starting, the slow dismantling of the world she thought was permanent. I began spending more time outside the house. Gym sessions ran longer. Coffee with just people, as I told her when she asked who I was with. That answer rattled her more than a confession of infidelity ever could. Because people meant I was part of a life she didn't control anymore. One night, I caught her going through my laundry. She pretended to fold clothes, but was really searching my pockets for receipts. I didn't call her out. I just let her stew in the same uncertainty she once weaponized against me. This wasn't revenge. It was clarity. And clarity is far more dangerous than rage, because clarity doesn't shout, it acts. She was beginning to realize I was no longer waiting for her. The problem for her was that by the time she understood it fully, I wouldn't just be distant. I'd be gone. I hadn't planned to look. But late one evening, walking past her home office, I saw her laptop open. She'd stepped away for water, and a chat window glowed in the corner. I didn't step closer. I didn't touch the keyboard. But the words were clear enough from where I stood. His name, and a string of messages laced with a tone I recognized instantly. Playful. Suggestive. The kind of conversation that doesn't belong in a marriage. I didn't take a photo. Didn't confront her. That would have been predictable. The reaction she could prepare for. Instead, I walked past, went upstairs, and sat on the edge of our bed. I let the discovery settle like a weight in my chest, not heavy with pain, but with certainty. The next morning, I was out of the house before she woke. No note. No explanation. I spent the day moving certain documents into my office at work. Passport, birth certificate, tax files, financial records. Then I transferred a discrete portion of our joint savings into my private account. Legal, clean, untouchable. That evening, she was in the kitchen making dinner, something she hadn't done in months. She greeted me with a smile too bright to be real. I returned one just as polite, the kind you'd give a stranger in passing. Over the next week, I kept my schedule unpredictable. Early mornings, late nights. I gave vague answers to her questions. Had a meeting. Ran some errands. Met someone for coffee. I wasn't lying. I just wasn't explaining. And that uncertainty started to eat at her. I noticed how she lingered in doorways, pretending to search for something while her eyes studied me. She asked about my day like she was fishing for details I wouldn't give. Then, one night, she mentioned she'd been invited on a weekend trip with friends. The sentence was bait, dangled to draw out jealousy. I told her to have a great time. She froze for half a second before forcing a smile. That answer told her more than any fight could have. I was no longer playing her game. She thought this was a pause. She believed she could pull me back when it suited her. But what she didn't understand was that I'd already stepped outside the frame. And once you're out, you see the picture for what it really is. And you never walk back in. Her weekend trip didn't happen. 2 days before she was supposed to leave, she told me the plans fell through. She said it casually, but the way she watched my face told me she was measuring my reaction. I just nodded, as if it were meaningless. In reality, I knew exactly why she stayed. She didn't want to leave me alone. She didn't trust the silence anymore. The next few days, she started shadowing my routines. If I made coffee, she wandered into the kitchen. If I went to the gym, she asked when I'd be back. Her questions weren't about connection. They were about control. She was trying to map my movements again, rebuild the comfort of knowing exactly where I was and who I was with. I gave her nothing she could use. Instead, I adjusted the balance in our finances even further. I moved automatic bill payments into my name only, closed a small joint investment account, and opened a new credit line she couldn't see. None of it was illegal. All of it was deliberate. I was building a future she wouldn't be part of. One evening, she tried something new. She came into the living room wearing a dress I hadn't seen in years, short, fitted, the kind she wore back when we were still falling for each other. She sat beside me, close enough for her perfume to linger in the air. I kept my eyes on the TV. She asked what I was watching. I told her. She didn't comment, just stayed there, waiting. When it became clear I wasn't going to close the distance, she got up, muttered something about needing to call a friend, and left the room. That night, I heard her on the phone in the kitchen. Her voice was low, but the frustration was obvious. She said I'd been different, that I barely looked at her anymore, that I was slipping away. She wasn't wrong. But what she didn't realize was that it wasn't a slip. It was a decision. By now, the detachment wasn't an act. I wasn't holding back to punish her. I simply didn't need her in my world anymore. She had spent years controlling the distance between us, keeping me close enough to use, but far enough to keep wanting. Now, the roles had reversed, and she was the one standing on the outside, wondering how to get back in. By the third week, the shift was impossible for her to ignore. She no longer left her phone unattended. The screen was always face down, even when she walked into another room. She carried it from place to place like it was an oxygen tank. She was careful now, but it didn't matter. I wasn't looking anymore. I didn't need more proof. I already knew enough. What mattered was control, and I had it. I began changing my patterns. If I used to be home by 6, now it was 8. If my gym session ended at 7, I stayed until 9. Some nights, I didn't come home until nearly midnight. I always gave an answer if she asked, but it was short and clean. Busy day. Had to take care of something. Never a detail she could hold on to. She started waiting up for me. I'd walk in to find her on the couch, pretending to watch TV, her body angled toward the door. I could feel her eyes on me as I hung up my coat, poured a drink, and sat down without speaking. She didn't ask directly where I'd been. Not yet, but the air between us was thick enough to cut. Friday night, I made my first visible move. I took every framed photo of us from the living room shelves. No ceremony, no conversation. I boxed them, carried the box to the garage, and left the shelves bare. Later, after I went upstairs, I heard her in the living room. The soft scrape of picture frames being picked up, the pause when she realized they were all gone. She didn't follow me. She didn't mention it. But the silence she left in place of words told me it landed. The next morning, she asked if I thought we'd been spending enough time together lately. I told her I'd been busy. She stood there a little too long, waiting for me to elaborate. I didn't. That weekend, I booked a short trip. 2 nights away, nothing extravagant. I told her the day before I left. No invitation. No explanation. When I came back, her tone had changed. The edge was gone, replaced with something quieter. More careful. She was starting to understand. This wasn't a phase, and it wasn't a tactic. It was the new reality. One I could live in forever, while she drowned in it. The following week, I decided to make the silence heavier. It wasn't enough for her to feel distance. She needed to see it. I started taking my dinners out. Sometimes at the gym cafe, sometimes at a small place near the office. I never lied about where I was. I just didn't invite her. If she asked what I'd eaten, I gave one-word answers. Steak. Salad. Nothing else. By midweek, she tried flipping the script. She announced she was going out for drinks with friends. I told her to have fun without even looking up from my phone. I didn't ask who was going, what time she'd be back, or where she was meeting them. That threw her off more than if I'd accused her of anything. Thursday night, I came home to find the dining table set for 2, candles lit, her hair done, a bottle of wine breathing on the counter. She said she thought we could have a nice dinner together. I sat down, ate, thanked her, and then stood up without lingering. The next day, I moved to the financial phase I'd been preparing for. I closed the last of our shared subscriptions, switched utilities into my name alone, and arranged for all my incoming deposits to bypass the joint account entirely. I wasn't cutting her off yet, but I was closing every door behind me, one by one. That weekend, I went out early Saturday morning without telling her where. When I returned in the afternoon, she was in the kitchen, arms crossed, eyes sharp. She said she'd been trying to call me. I told her my phone had been on silent. That was true. She didn't ask more. She didn't have to. The shift was already written across her face. Sunday night, she knocked on my office door, a room she rarely entered. She said she felt like something was wrong between us, that we were drifting. I told her calmly that I'd been feeling that for a while. No anger, no blame, just fact. Then I turned back to my laptop. And that was the moment I saw it. The flicker of realization in her eyes. She finally understood I wasn't circling around her anymore. I was walking away, and I wasn't slowing down. By the start of the next week, her tone had changed completely. The sharpness was gone. Now, every word was measured, careful. She began offering small gestures, bringing me coffee in the morning, leaving a folded blanket on the couch, making sure dinner was ready when I got home. All things she hadn't done in months. It might have worked once, but now I saw them for what they were, not affection, but survival. She was trying to reestablish her position, to remind me of the version of her I'd fallen for. On Tuesday night, she asked if I'd be free over the weekend. I told her I wasn't sure and left it at that. I didn't explain. I didn't ask what she had in mind. The lack of engagement unsettled her more than an argument would have. Wednesday, I took another step. I cleared out the rest of my personal things from the shared closet. My suits, shoes, even my gym bag, all moved into the small guest room across the hall. I didn't announce it. I didn't leave a note. When she noticed, she didn't say a word, but I could feel the air tighten between us like a stretched wire. By Thursday, her behavior shifted again. She started talking about the past, trips we'd taken, restaurants we loved, old inside jokes. She laughed more, but it sounded like an act, the way someone laughs when they're afraid of silence. That night, as I was shutting down my laptop, she appeared in the doorway and asked if I was angry with her. I told her no, and I wasn't lying. Anger takes energy. I was past that. On Friday, I left after work and didn't come home until late. No explanation, no warning. When I walked in, she was sitting at the table, staring at her phone. She looked up, searching my face for something. A crack, a hint of emotion, any sign I was still hers. She didn't find it. And in that moment, I knew the shift was complete. She was no longer the one controlling the distance. She was chasing it, trying to close it, desperate to bridge a gap that wasn't accidental. The kind of gap you don't cross once you've decided you like the other side better. By the next week, her attempts had turned into a pattern. Little peace offerings wrapped in forced normalcy. She started cooking again, even baking on Sunday mornings like she used to. She left notes on the counter wishing me a good day. Every gesture was perfectly timed, almost rehearsed. But the thing about timing is that it only works if the moment still matters. And for me, those moments were gone. On Monday, I stayed late at the office. Not because I had to, but because I could. I walked in just after 9. She had dinner plated and waiting. The food was cold. I ate without comment. She watched me like she was waiting for a sign that her effort had landed. I gave her nothing. Tuesday, I took a call in the driveway before coming inside. When I walked in, she asked who it was. I told her someone from work and left it there. Her eyes lingered on me for a second too long, like she was trying to read my expression. Wednesday, I moved another set of personal files out of the house. Old photo albums, certificates, a few keepsakes I'd stored in our bedroom. They went into a locked drawer at my office. Quietly, piece by piece, I was removing my life from hers. Thursday night, she tried something bolder. She asked if I wanted to take a short trip together, just the two of us. I told her I was busy. No hesitation, no explanation. She nodded, but I saw her jaw tighten before she turned away. By Friday, she looked different. Tired. Like the constant reach for my attention was wearing her down. That evening, as I sat in the living room, she came in holding her phone, pretending to scroll, and asked if I still loved her. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her, really looked, and realized I didn't need to lie. I told her I didn't know anymore. Her face fell, not in shock, but in the slow collapse of someone who finally believes what they've been denying. And in that silence, I understood the final stage had started. She wasn't just losing me. She'd already lost me. Now she was only realizing it. The weekend came, and with it, the last piece of my plan. Saturday morning, I woke before her. I packed a single duffel bag with the essentials I'd been quietly moving out over the last month. Most of my clothes, personal items, and important documents were already gone. She just hadn't noticed. I left the wedding photo album on the kitchen counter, not as a message, but as an endpoint. When she woke, I was already dressed, sipping coffee at the table. She asked if I wanted breakfast. I told her I was heading out for a while. My tone was calm, steady, final. She tried to play it casual. Where are you going? I told her I had things to take care of. That was all. I walked past her into the hallway, picked up my bag, and stepped outside. She didn't follow immediately, maybe because she thought I'd be back in an hour. But I didn't go to the gym or the store. I drove to the apartment I'd signed for 2 weeks earlier. The place was small, quiet, nothing like the house we shared. But it was mine. Every lock, every key, every square foot, mine. I unpacked slowly, knowing that back at the house, she was probably starting to realize I wasn't coming back that day. By the evening, my phone lit up with messages. First casual, then questioning, then demanding. I didn't respond. I wasn't ignoring her out of spite. I simply didn't owe her my time anymore. Sunday, she called. I let it ring. Then another call. And another. Finally, a text. Can we talk? I read it once, then set the phone down. The truth was, there was nothing left to talk about. The distance she once controlled had become a wall she couldn't climb. And on my side of that wall, I had peace. That night, I sat in my new apartment with the window open, the sound of the city drifting in. No noise from her, no tension in the air, no weight in my chest. For the first time in years, I could breathe. She wanted the final word. But I'd already given it, without speaking. I didn't disappear. I just stopped being hers. What would you have done in my place? If the story hit you, leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe. It only gets stronger from here.